The air was cold and heavy. Ethan opened his eyes slowly, his head pounding like a drum. He could not remember where he was or how he had come here. The floor beneath him was smooth like metal, and it glowed faintly with blue light. He tried to move, but heavy chains pulled him back, clinking sharply in the silence. The room was strange, round in shape, with silver walls that shimmered as if alive. Symbols glowed faintly across them, moving like liquid light. Ethan's breath came fast, fogging the air before his face. His heart raced as fear crawled up his spine. He shouted, "Hello! Is anyone there?" But his voice echoed back, empty and lonely. A faint humming sound filled the air. Deep and mechanical, he turned his head, eyes wide. Searching for movement in one corner, strange machines blinked, their lights beating like heartbeats. He could smell something sharp and unfamiliar, like burned metal and ozone. Then suddenly, a soft voice spoke from nowhere. It was calm, almost human, yet filled with a strange echo. Subject awake, pulse normal, human life form stabilized. Ethan froze, not understanding where the voice came from. Then the door appeared, not opened, but appeared. A line of white light cut across the wall. The metal folded back like petals of a flower, and a figure stepped inside. She was tall, taller than any woman he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered blue and silver under the light. Her eyes glowed faintly, not with cruelty, but with something ancient. Her long hair moved softly as if in water, and around her shoulders hung a cloak of light. Ethan stared, unable to speak. He had seen aliens in movies, but nothing like this. She looked too perfect, too graceful, too real. Her presence filled the room like energy, calm yet powerful. When she looked at him, his breath caught in his throat. "You are awake," she said, her voice like music and thunder together. Ethan tried to back away, but the chains held tight. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice shaking. "You are in the royal chamber of the Lyrith Empire," she said softly, "and you are my chosen human." He blinked, confused. Chosen for what? She walked closer, her steps silent, her eyes never leaving his face. "Your planet has something rare," she said. "Your kind carries what my world has lost, emotion. Warmth, connection." Ethan swallowed hard, his mind spinning. "You're saying I'm here because I'm human?" She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Yes, but not just any human," she whispered. "You were found through the ancient signal, the mark of resonance." He didn't understand any of it. All he knew was that he was trapped, and this strange, beautiful creature was talking about him like an experiment. He pulled against the chains again, but they didn't move. The alien woman raised her hand, and the chains released instantly. Falling away like liquid metal, Ethan stumbled back, surprised. "You are not my prisoner," she said calmly. "But you are not free either." Her words sent chills through him. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. She looked down at him for a moment, then said, "I am Seraphina, Queen of the Lyrith." Her name rolled through the air like music. Ethan stared, unsure whether to bow or run. The Queen smiled faintly as if reading his thoughts. "You fear me," she said, "and that is wise. But you must also listen. For your life will depend on what I offer." Ethan's chest rose and fell quickly. He wanted to scream that he didn't belong here, that he was just an ordinary man. But something deep inside told him this was no dream. Seraphina stepped closer again, until he could see the tiny lights moving under her skin like flowing stars. Her gaze softened. "I did not bring you here to harm you," she said. "I brought you here because I need you." He shook his head slowly. "Need me for what?" The Queen's eyes glowed brighter for a moment. "To save my people," she said, "or to destroy them." The words hung in the air like a spell. Ethan's mind was full of fear, yet also curiosity. Why him? What did she mean by chosen? Before he could speak again, she raised her hand slightly, and the air filled with soft light. Strange symbols floated between them. Forming a glowing circle, he could feel it pulsing, almost like a heartbeat, but not his, hers. Seraphina looked into his eyes and said softly, "The connection has already begun." Ethan felt warmth spread through his chest. His vision blurred for a second, showing flashes of stars. "Battles and ancient cities," he gasped, and then everything went dark again. The last thing he heard before losing consciousness was her voice, calm, deep and almost tender. "You are the one I have chosen." Ethan woke to a soft humming sound. His head felt light, his body heavy, and for a moment he thought he was still dreaming. When his eyes opened, he found himself lying on a silver bed. surrounded by curtains that shimmered like liquid glass. Strange lights moved gently along the walls. Like stars trapped inside water, the air smelled sweet, mixed with metal and something ancient. He sat up slowly, touching his chest, remembering the warmth that had filled him before he fainted. It was gone now, but the memory of it made him shiver. He looked around carefully, but he was alone. No guards, no chains, only silence and the soft hum of alien machinery. Suddenly, the light in the room shifted, turning from blue to gold. The air itself seemed to vibrate. Ethan's breath caught as the figure of Queen Seraphina appeared near the doorway. Her steps were silent, her face calm but unreadable. Her eyes glowed softly, carrying the kind of power that made him forget how to breathe. "You are awake," she said. Her voice low and smooth. Ethan nodded slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. "What did you do to me?" he asked. "You connected with my world," she replied. "You saw what your human mind could barely understand." He frowned, trying to remember the visions. "I saw light and war. I saw people dying," he said quietly. Seraphina's expression softened for the first time. "Yes," she said, "my empire is dying, and I cannot stop it alone." She walked closer to him, the air around her shimmering like heat. Ethan tensed, unsure if he should move or bow. Seraphina looked at him closely, her eyes searching his face. "Your kind has what we lost long ago," she said softly. "Your heart still carry emotion, warmth, and the bond that keeps life pure." Ethan blinked. Confused but drawn in by her words, "Emotion?" he repeated. She nodded slowly. "Yes, your emotions connect energy and spirit, something my people have forgotten." Ethan rubbed his forehead, trying to understand. "So, you took me from Earth to teach your people how to feel?" he asked. The Queen's lips curved slightly, not into a smile, but into something that looked almost human. "In a way," she said. "But more than that, you were chosen by the resonance." "The what?" he asked, his voice nervous. "The resonance," she said again. "A signal from the ancient times that searches across the stars for one human soul, the one who can restore balance." Ethan let out a short, nervous laugh. "You must have the wrong guy," he said. "I'm nobody." Seraphina's eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. "Do not doubt what the stars have chosen," she said firmly. "You are here for a reason." Her tone was not angry, but it carried a power that made the air tremble. Ethan swallowed hard, realizing this was not something he could joke about. Seraphina turned away and walked toward the far wall. The surface rippled like water, revealing a holographic image of a burning planet. "This was once a paradise," she said quietly, "but greed and power destroyed it. Our technology grew strong, but our hearts grew cold." She turned her glowing gaze toward him. "You humans still feel pain, love, loss. You still fight for one another. That is what my people forgot." Ethan stood slowly, staring at the image. "So you brought me here to fix that?" he asked. "To save your people?" Seraphina's eyes softened again. "To save both of us," she said gently. "You see, the bond between us has already begun." Ethan's chest tightened. "What bond?" "The connection of essence," she said, stepping closer. "When you touched my light, your heart and mine became linked." He stepped back, shaking his head. "No, I didn't agree to this," he said. Her voice stayed calm, but her words carried weight. "It is not something you agree to, human. It is something written by the stars." The room grew quiet again, only the low hum of energy between them. Ethan could feel her presence pressing gently against his mind. Not painful, but powerful. He felt emotions that weren't his. Loneliness, regret, longing. It was as if her soul was whispering directly into his. He looked up and said softly, "You're lonely." Seraphina froze for a moment, her golden eyes flickering. Then she nodded slowly. "Yes," she said, her voice low. "I have ruled for centuries, but I have never truly lived." Her gaze met his again, deep and full of something that felt human. "I do not just need your power, Ethan. I need your heart." The words stunned him. He didn't know what to say. He wanted to be angry, to demand answers, but all he felt was a strange pull, something deep and invisible that connected them. Seraphina lifted her hand, and the air around them shimmered with light. A soft glow wrapped around Ethan's arm like a living ribbon. He gasped as warmth spread through his skin. "This is the first stage of the bond," she whispered. Your energy will become one with mine slowly over time. Ethan looked at her, his heart pounding. What happens if I refuse? He asked in a low voice. The Queen's expression turned serious, almost sad. Then the bond will consume you, she said softly. Your body will not survive the separation. Silence filled the chamber. Ethan's breath grew shallow. He realized now that freedom was not an option. She had chosen him and his life was already tied to hers. Serafina took one slow step forward, her eyes never leaving his. Accept the bond. Ethan, she said softly. Together, we can save my world. And maybe your own. Ethan stood there frozen, his mind torn between fear and wonder. The Queen of another world was asking for his heart. Not as a ruler, but as a woman who had forgotten how to feel. And deep down, though he didn't understand why, he felt that refusing her might break something inside him forever. The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of alien energy. Ethan stood near the center, his heart beating fast, unsure if he was dreaming or living through something he would never escape. The walls shimmered with golden symbols that moved like liquid fire, surrounding him in a glowing circle. Queen Serafina stood a few steps away, calm and graceful, her long cloak flowing like smoke in the air. Her eyes glowed softly, watching him, as if measuring his fear and strength at the same time. This is the place of unity, she said gently, her voice echoing through the chamber. It is where two life forces connect, and not by choice, but by fate. Ethan's throat felt dry. He took a step back, staring at the glowing lines forming around his feet. I don't understand any of this, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Serafina tilted her head, her golden crown catching the light. You do not need to understand, human, she whispered. You only need to feel. A group of alien attendants appeared silently from the shadows. Their faces were hidden under silver masks, and their hands carried orbs of blue light. They moved like dancers, placing the orbs in a perfect circle around Ethan and the Queen when they stepped back. The room filled with a low, vibrating sound that shook his bones. Ethan looked up, frightened but curious. What is happening? He asked. Serafina raised her hand slowly, and the lights around them brightened. The ceremony begins, she said softly. The floor beneath Ethan started to glow brighter, lines of energy crawling toward his legs. He gasped and tried to move, but his feet felt heavy, locked by invisible force. The light climbed higher, reaching his chest, and with it came warmth, strange, but not painful. Serafina stepped closer, her eyes glowing even brighter now. The bond will connect our hearts, she said quietly. Our energy, our emotion, our memories. Ethan felt his pulse quicken. What if I don't want this? He asked in a shaky voice. The Queen's expression softened, her tone calm but unshakable. Then you will not survive, for the connection has already begun. He stared at her, trying to read her face, but her beauty made it hard to think. She lifted her hands, and streams of golden light rose from her palms, twisting and swirling like ribbons. They circled around Ethan, wrapping his body in warmth. He could feel her thoughts, her pain, her loneliness. Images flashed before his eyes, visions not his own. He saw great alien cities built of crystal and light. He saw soldiers fighting under twin suns. He saw Serafina standing alone on a throne of silver. Tears running down her glowing face, he gasped, clutching his head. What is this? Serafina's voice echoed softly inside his mind now, not through his ears. These are my memories, she said, now shared with you. The warmth grew stronger, spreading through his chest. Ethan felt something deep inside him respond, a strange connection, a rhythm that matched hers. He could feel her heartbeat through the air itself, steady and powerful, and somehow his own heart began to follow it. Beating in sync, Serafina moved closer, until only a few inches separated them. Her golden eyes locked onto his, and for the first time, Ethan saw something that looked like emotion, real and raw. She whispered, Do not fear me, Ethan, I will not harm you. But her voice carried sorrow, as if she herself did not fully believe those words. The light around them grew brighter. Almost blinding, the air became heavy, thick with energy. Ethan could feel it pressing against his skin. Pulling something out of him, he wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Then suddenly, calm like the moment after a storm, everything stopped, the light dimmed, and silence returned. Ethan fell to his knees, gasping for breath. His hands shook as he looked at Serafina. Her eyes were glowing softer now, her face pale but calm. It is done, she said quietly. The bond is sealed. He blinked in confusion. What did you do to me? She stepped closer, kneeling slightly so her face was level with his. I gave you a part of my life force, she said softly. And I took a part of yours. Her fingers brushed his cheek gently, leaving a faint golden mark that shimmered for a second before fading. You are not only human now, she whispered. You are something more. Ethan's breathing slowed. He felt different, stronger, lighter but also afraid. What happens to me now? He asked. Serafina stood tall again, her eyes full of quiet power. Now, she said, you must learn to use what we share. She turned away, her long cloak of light sweeping the floor. Tomorrow, you will begin training, she said over her shoulder. Your bond connects to my power, but it will also attract my enemies. Ethan looked down at his hands. Faint lines of golden light moved beneath his skin like veins of fire. He didn't know whether to be amazed or terrified. When he looked up again, Serafina was already near the exit. Before leaving, she paused and said softly, Do not fight the bond, Ethan. It will protect you, but it will also test you. Her voice echoed through the chamber as she disappeared into the golden mist. Ethan sat there in silence, feeling the warmth pulsing in his chest. He could still sense her presence, distant, but connected, his heart and hers beating together, across space, across fear, across destiny. And though he didn't yet understand it, his life as an ordinary human was already over. He was now part of something far greater, and far more dangerous than he could ever imagine. When Ethan woke again, everything around him was bright and peaceful. He was no longer in the cold chamber or surrounded by strange machines. Instead, he lay on a soft bed that felt almost alive, its surface glowing faintly with warmth. The room was larger than any place he had ever seen, with tall crystal pillars and silver curtains that moved like wind though there was no breeze. Outside the window, he could see an endless alien city, towers made of light, flying ships gliding through the air, and a glowing sky of violet and gold. For a long moment, Ethan could only stare. It looked like a dream, but it felt too real. He touched the edge of the bed and it rippled under his fingers like water. His body felt strange, light, powerful, and warm. He looked at his hands and saw faint golden lines under his skin, glowing softly. The bond was real, he thought, and it was inside him now before he could think further. The door to his room opened silently. A tall alien woman entered, wearing a silver robe that shimmered like starlight. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes glowed faintly. She bowed her head slightly. My name is Lyra, she said softly. I serve the queen and now I serve you. The chosen? Ethan sat up quickly, confused. The chosen? He repeated. Yes, she replied, smiling faintly. You are bonded with our queen, the only one of your kind to share her essence. Ethan didn't know how to respond. He rubbed his temples, trying to make sense of everything. Lyra placed a small glowing bowl on the table beside him. Inside was food, or something that looked like food. Small crystal-like fruits that gave off soft light. Eat, she said gently. Your body needs energy after the bonding. Ethan picked one up, hesitated, and took a small bite. It melted instantly, cool and sweet, filling his mind with calm. To his surprise, it tasted like something familiar, like peaches from Earth. How do you know what I like? He asked quietly. Lyra smiled again. The bond allows the queen to sense your memories, she said. She shared them with her palace. Ethan froze. She can see my memories? He asked. Lyra nodded slowly. Your mind and her spirit are now connected, she explained. Nothing that belongs to you is hidden anymore. Ethan felt a cold wave of unease. He looked toward the window again, the alien city glowing in the distance. Somewhere out there, Serafina was watching, he thought. A sudden voice echoed behind him. She does not spy on you. Ethan. He turned quickly. Queen Serafina stood near the doorway, her presence filling the room like sunlight. Lyra bowed deeply and left in silence. Serafina stepped closer, her golden eyes calm and unreadable. You are safe here, she said softly. No one will harm you. Ethan looked at her, his heart still unsure whether to trust her. You can read my memories, he said quietly. Doesn't that mean I have no privacy? Serafina's lips curved into a faint smile. I see only what the bond allows, she said gently. Not all. only emotion strong enough to touch the link between us. Ethan looked down, not knowing if that made him feel better or worse. She continued, "Your thoughts are human, your fears are human, and they are beautiful." For a moment, silence filled the room. Serafina looked out the window, her expression growing sad. "My world was not always like this," she said quietly. "Long ago, we were a people of peace, of creation, of life." "What happened?" Ethan asked softly. Her eyes darkened. "We became gods in our own minds," she said. "We built machines that could think for us, fight for us, even feel for us. Our hearts grew cold, our souls empty." She turned toward him. "That is why you were chosen, to bring warmth back into this frozen empire." Ethan stood slowly, looking out at the city again. From this height it looked perfect, but somehow he sensed the truth beneath its beauty. "It looks alive," he said, "but it feels empty." Serafina nodded sadly. "You see what others cannot," she said. "The bond lets you feel the spirit of my world." Suddenly the light outside flickered. Dark shapes moved far above the towers, and faint rumbling filled the air. Serafina turned sharply, her expression tense. "They are watching," she whispered. "Who?" Ethan asked, his voice uneasy. "My enemies," she replied. "The High Council. They fear what I have done." "Why?" "Because I broke the sacred law," she said, her tone quiet but firm. "No ruler may bond with a creature from another world." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "So, you risked everything for me?" She looked at him, her eyes glowing softly. "For us," she said simply. The sound outside grew louder, a distant explosion echoing through the city. Ethan stepped toward the window, but Serafina raised her hand. "Stay inside," she said firmly. "They will not attack me here, not yet." Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed worry. "The council knows that if they destroy you, the bond will destroy me as well," she said. "So they will come with words before weapons." Ethan swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" Serafina looked at him for a long moment before answering. "Now, you will learn the truth of what it means to be the chosen," she said. Her tone was soft, but the weight of her words filled the air with fear and mystery. "Because in this empire, Ethan, love is not just forbidden, it is treason." The light from the window flickered again. Serafina turned away, her golden cloak sweeping across the floor. "Rest for now," she said quietly. "The storm is coming." Ethan stood there in silence, his reflection glowing faintly in the crystal window. For the first time, he realized that he was no longer just a visitor in this alien world. He was part of it, and his choices could decide whether it lived or died. The night sky over the alien city burned with golden light. Ethan stood beside Queen Serafina on a wide balcony high above the towers. Below them, the city shimmered like a sea of stars. Yet beneath its beauty, Ethan felt something dark moving. He could sense tension in the air like the calm before a storm. Ever since the bond ceremony, he could feel the queen's emotions faintly, and tonight, her heart was heavy. "The council is not pleased," Serafina said quietly, her gaze lost in the horizon. "They believe I have broken sacred law." Ethan turned to her. "Because of me?" She looked at him, her golden eyes soft yet firm. "They fear what they do not understand," she said. "A human bound to their queen is something they will not forgive." A strong gust of wind swept across the balcony. Ethan's heart pounded as he saw dark ships hovering far above the city's edge. "Are those—" he began. "Yes," Serafina interrupted, her tone sharp. "Council ships." Her voice held calm authority, but deep inside the bond, Ethan felt her worry. "They would not dare attack the palace," she added, though the tremor in her heart told him otherwise. Moments later, the sky cracked with thunder. A beam of blue energy flashed across the clouds, striking one of the city's spires. The explosion lit up the night like fire. Ethan stumbled back, covering his face. What's happening? He shouted. The council has made its choice, Serafina said, her voice turning cold as metal. They are coming for us. Guards rushed into the balcony chamber, their armor glowing silver and blue. They bowed deeply. My queen, the upper levels are under attack. Serafina nodded, her calm returning like a mask. Activate the shield and secure the inner corridors, she ordered. As the guards left, she turned to Ethan. You must stay close to me. The bond protects you only within my presence. The walls of the palace began to vibrate as distant explosions shook the city. Ethan followed her down long, glowing corridors that seemed to shift and change. He could hear distant shouting, alien voices full of fear and confusion. Servants ran past them, carrying strange crystals and data orbs. The once peaceful palace now pulsed with chaos. Why are they doing this? Ethan asked. Serafina didn't answer immediately. Her jaw tightened, her voice low. Because the council believes I am weak, she said. They believe love has made me unfit to rule. Her eyes glowed brighter, fierce and angry. They are wrong, she whispered. Love makes me stronger. Suddenly, the wall beside them exploded in a burst of energy. Ethan was thrown to the ground as smoke filled the hallway. Guards shouted, beams of light cutting through the air. Through the haze, Ethan saw dark armored figures, the council's soldiers. Serafina raised her hand and a wave of golden energy blasted forward, throwing the attackers backward like leaves in wind. Ethan's ears rang as she pulled him up. Come, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. They ran through the corridors, her glowing hair trailing behind like fire. Everywhere, alarms echoed and lights flickered. Ethan's mind raced. He was just a man from Earth, yet here he was, running beside a queen from another world. As they turned a corner, a familiar figure stepped out from the shadows. It was Lord Kale, one of Serafina's counselors, tall, elegant, and cold. His silver armor gleamed under the flickering light. My queen, he said softly, I begged you not to do this. Serafina froze, her expression unreadable. Kale, she said, move aside. But he shook his head slowly. You bonded with a human, he said, his voice like ice. You brought shame upon our empire. Ethan felt a chill crawl down his spine. Wait, he said. You're part of this? Kyle's eyes flickered toward him with disgust. You are the infection, he said, and I will cure it. Before Serafina could react, Kale raised his hand. A blade of blue energy formed instantly. He struck toward Ethan. Serafina moved faster, blocking the blow with her arm. A burst of light filled the corridor as the two clashed. The sound was deafening. Power against power. Serafina's eyes blazed like suns, her voice echoing with fury. You were my brother in arms, Kale, she said, and you betray me for fear. Kale's face twisted with anger. I betray you for survival, he said, pushing forward. Our people cannot follow a queen who falls in love with her prey. Ethan, still on the floor, saw the opening. Kale's energy blade hummed dangerously close to Serafina's chest. Without thinking, Ethan grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, a glowing staff, and struck it across Kale's side. The impact sent a burst of energy through the air, knocking Kale back. Serafina turned, her eyes wide. Ethan! But before she could finish, another explosion tore through the corridor, separating them with smoke and fire. Go! She shouted through the chaos. I'll find you! Ethan yelled back, coughing as he ran through the side passage. The floor shook beneath him, pieces of the palace crumbling. He turned a corner and found an exit leading into the open night. The alien city below was burning. Ships firing across the sky. Ethan looked back once, feeling her heartbeat inside his chest. Faint but alive. He knew she was still fighting. As he ran into the darkness, one thought echoed in his mind like a whisper. The queen had risked everything for him, and now he would do the same, because even in this world of light and shadow he could feel it. The bond between them was not just power, it was love, and he would fight for it, no matter the cost. The twin moons hung over the broken skyline. Smoke curled up from the shattered towers of the alien capital. Glowing faintly against the purple sky, Ethan stood at the edge of a ruined platform, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The city below was chaos, fire, falling ships, screams echoing through the metallic air. He looked down at his hand, still glowing faintly with golden light. The bond between him and Serafina pulsed weakly. Like a heartbeat fading in the distance, "She's alive," he whispered, gripping the railing somewhere deep inside. He could still feel her, the warmth of her presence. Faint but unbroken, he didn't know how far she was, or if she was still fighting, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let her die alone. Footsteps approached from behind. He turned quickly, ready to fight. A group of alien soldiers stepped out of the shadows, their armor damaged and dirty, their faces marked with fear. But their leader, a tall woman with bright silver eyes, lowered her weapon and bowed slightly. "You are the human," she said, "the one the Queen bonded with." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "She's still alive," he said firmly. "I can feel her." The soldiers exchanged looks of disbelief. "The Queen was taken by the council guard," the woman said. "They've sealed the central citadel." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then that's where we're going." The soldier looked uncertain. "It's suicide," she warned. "Their shields will destroy anyone who approaches." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the warmth in his chest pulse stronger. "Not if we use what she gave me," he said quietly. The golden veins under his skin flared brighter, lighting his face with a soft glow. The soldiers stared in awe. "The chosen," one whispered. Falling to one knee, Ethan shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "I'm just a man, but she believed in me, and I won't let her down." That night, under the broken sky, they gathered dozens of soldiers and loyalists, servants, and rebels who still believed in Serafina, came together in the ruins. Some carried strange alien weapons, others tools, and a few brought glowing crystals for power. Ethan stood among them, his simple human form shining faintly with the Queen's energy. For the first time since his capture, he didn't feel afraid. He felt alive. "She fought for you," he said loudly, looking at the crowd. "She risked everything for me. For us. Because she believed there was something worth saving." His voice echoed across the courtyard. "We are not fighting for power," he said. "We're fighting for hope. And if a human from a small blue planet can stand for your Queen, then so can you." The crowd erupted in a low hum, alien voices joining together in agreement. The rebellion had begun. By dawn, the city trembled with battle. Ethan led the first wave across the lower bridges toward the citadel. Energy blasts lit the air in every direction. The ground shook as enemy ships fired from above. But Ethan's presence gave the fighters courage. Wherever he walked, the bond's golden light spread like fire, strengthening those around him. The Queen's energy flowed through his veins. Guiding his movements, he fought not as a soldier, but as something greater, a bridge between two worlds. At the citadel gates, the enemy's shield glowed blue and unbreakable. Ethan placed his hands against it, feeling its vibration. The golden light from his palms spread across the surface like veins of fire. He could feel her. Faint, weak, but calling his name from somewhere inside. "Serafina," he whispered, and as if she heard him, the shield began to flicker. The soldiers behind him watched in awe as the massive barrier cracked open. Inside the citadel, the halls were dark and cold. Bodies of fallen guards lay across the floor. Ethan's footsteps echoed as he moved forward, guided by the pulse of the bond. He found her deep within a crystal chamber, chained by beams of energy. Her once bright aura was dim, her body weak. But her eyes, her golden eyes, still glowed when she saw him. "You came," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Ethan rushed to her side, his heart racing. "I told you I'd find you," he said, his hands trembling as he tried to break the chains, but the energy burned his skin. Serafina shook her head. "You can't. They tied my power to the core," she said weakly. "If you destroy the chains, you destroy me." Ethan stopped, his heart twisting. "There has to be another way," he said. Serafina looked at him softly. "There is," she said, "but it will cost you." Her voice trembled. "If you give your energy through the bond, you can release me, but it will take your life." Ethan froze. Staring into her eyes, the world around him seemed to disappear. He could hear only her heartbeat, and steady, beautiful, alive. He smiled faintly. "You gave me life when I had none," he whispered. "Now it's my turn." Before she could stop him, he placed both hands on the chains. Golden light burst from his body. Spreading through the chamber like sunrise, the energy burned, but he didn't scream. He only whispered her name. The chains shattered one by one, until Serafina fell into his arms. Free. The chamber glowed brighter, the core pulsing with power. Serafina looked down at him as his strength began to fade. "No," she whispered. "Ethan, don't leave me." He smiled weakly. "You taught me what love really means," he said softly. "Now use it to save them." His eyes closed as the last of his light flowed into her. For a moment the world went still. Then Serafina screamed, a sound that shook the sky. Her power exploded outward, washing across the city like a golden storm. The fires went out, the machines froze, and the stars above burned brighter than ever. Ethan's body lay quiet in her arms. Tears glowed like gold on her face, she whispered. "You were never just human." And in that moment her world began to heal. The city of Lyrath was silent for the first time in 1,000 years. Golden light drifted through the air like dust after a storm. The war was over, but the cost had carved deep scars across the world. Broken towers still smoked in the distance, and the air shimmered with leftover energy from the Queen's final scream. At the center of the fallen citadel, Serafina knelt on the floor. Holding Ethan's body in her arms, he looked peaceful, almost asleep. His human skin was pale but still glowed faintly with golden lines. The last traces of their bond. Serafina's tears fell onto his chest, glowing softly before fading into his skin. "You gave everything," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I thought I could teach you my power, but it was you who taught me what it means to live." Around them, her soldiers and the few survivors of the rebellion stood in silence. Some bowed their heads in respect, others simply stared, unable to believe what they had witnessed. A human had given his life for their queen, for love, for hope. The sky above began to change. The twin moons dimmed, replaced by a single golden light spreading from the horizon. The planet itself was healing, the damage slowly reversing as if the world remembered life again. The bond's energy had reached the core, the heart of their empire, and reignited it. Ethan's sacrifice had restored what centuries of power had destroyed. Serafina brushed her hand gently across his face, her voice breaking. "You were not meant to die for me," she whispered. "You were meant to live beside me." Her heart ached in a way no wound could match. For all her power, she could not bring him back. But she could still feel a faint echo deep within the bond. Small, weak, but alive. Her golden eyes flickered as she stood around her. The ground pulsed with the same light Ethan once carried. She placed her palm over his chest. "Ethan," she whispered, "you said love could save my people. Now let it save you." Her body began to glow, her energy rising higher than ever before. The golden aura wrapped around them both like fire and mist. A voice spoke in her mind, soft, human, familiar. "Serafina, what are you doing?" She smiled through her tears. "Keeping my promise," she whispered. The light grew blinding, filling the chamber with warmth. Her body shook as she poured every drop of her life force into the bond. The energy flowed from her heart into his. Her skin turned pale, her crown dimmed, but she did not stop. Then, a heartbeat, one single beat, faint but real. Ethan gasped suddenly, his body arching with light. The bond between them flared to life once more. Glowing brighter than ever, Serafina fell beside him, weak but smiling. He opened his eyes slowly, confusion and wonder in his gaze. "Serafina?" he whispered. She touched his cheek gently, her fingers trembling. "You came back," she said softly, her voice filled with joy and exhaustion. He smiled faintly. "I heard you calling," he said. "I couldn't stay away." The soldiers watching gasped as golden light rose from the citadel like dawn. The queen and the human, together again, were surrounded by pure energy. It spread across the empire, healing the land, repairing the skies, awakening the dead cities. Wherever the light touched, life returned. The bond that had been forbidden now became the power that saved them all. When the light finally faded, Serafina and Ethan stood hand in hand on the citadel balcony. The wind brushed through their hair, carrying the sound of distant laughter from the people below. For the first time, her world was alive again. Serafina looked at Ethan, her golden eyes soft. "You gave me your life," she said, "and I gave you mine. Now we share it." Ethan smiled. "Guess that makes us even," he said, and she laughed softly for the first time. They stood together watching the horizon, a new sun rising over a reborn world. Below them, the people of Lyrath bowed, calling out their names with reverence. No longer a queen and her subject, but two souls who had defied destiny. Two hearts that had rewritten the laws of gods and empires. Later, when peace returned, legends would spread across galaxies of the human who was chosen by an alien queen, of the love that healed a dying world, and of the bond that united two species forever. In the great halls of Lireth, a new symbol was carved, a glowing golden heart encircled by stars, the emblem of unity, of courage, of love that reached beyond worlds, and beneath it, engraved in both alien and human script, were the words Ethan once spoke: "Love is not weakness. It is the power that saves us all." As the twin moons rose again in peace, Ethan and Seraphina stood side by side, their hands intertwined, watching the stars they had once fought beneath. Two souls bound forever, not by destiny but by choice, and in the endless light of their new world, their story became eternal.